Hello explorers, thanks for joining us again and welcome back to our channel. If you are joining us for the first time, we want to thank you for watching. I've received a number of emails from my viewers asking, where have you been? Well, the simple answer is I haven't gone anywhere. I've just been very busy with personal projects and also very important things happening around my particular sphere of influence. A Explorer is one of those particular projects. I do have a corporate job which requires my attention as well, but I try to split that into making sure that as a result of the critical situation in the continent of Africa, I am able and also making that particular time, creating that time to bring you perspective on how Africa engage its geopolitical partners from Russia, China, the United States of America, Europe, including Middle Eastern partners, and not leaving out India. The period is tense and Africa needs to open its eyes that the world is not waiting for the continent. That's the reason why Africa is making strategic choices and choosing its own partners. This is causing a commotion in the geopolitical cycle. In this episode, it's going to be the first form of our short form content that we've developed and built based on my analytics. I realized that a number of my viewers are very busy, and that's the reason why I'm introducing the short form content. Let's see how it goes, where we shall be looking at more analytical information, short form analysis, and also give you perspective to bring you the knowledge that you need on how Africa is engaging its geopolitical partners. First, in this episode, I'll be looking at the impact of the Chinese investment in the continent of Africa, how that sits with Africa's geopolitical partners, and what Africa as a continent have learned from engaging with China. So without any much delay, let's just dive straight into it. China is the largest developing country. Africa is the continent with the largest number of developing countries. The China-African economic relationship has developed rapidly over the last 2 decades. China has increased its investment in Africa over the last 4 decades. Flows surged from $75 million based on 2003 figures to over $5 billion as of 2021. Based on my analysis, if you look at perspective, this has been both positive and also negative impacts on the African continent. If you look at infrastructure improvement, job creation, and also overall economic growth can be listed as positive result, leading to improved connectivity, trade, and also importation in the continent, where infrastructural integration has also always been a challenge in the continent of Africa, as we see Africans continue to choose its own partners in the current tense geopolitical cycle. If you look at perspective, creating such opportunities in Africa has supported lower unemployment rates if you look at figures, particularly among the youths in the continent of Africa, which is fundamental in a continent that enjoys a positive demographic bonus. If you look at the geopolitics in play, through Chinese investment, African countries have also diversified their economies and also export, with greater access to new sources of income generation and also economic growth and improved overall prosperity. African nations are beginning to ask some questions with regards to how they engage different geopolitical partners in different areas, from investment, agriculture, and a whole lot of pharmaceutical development. Criticisms of Chinese investment in Africa includes things like the debt trappings, economic dependency, and also prioritization of Chinese interests over local needs. However, as you all know, Africa's Western partners also prioritize their own interests and also look after their own particular opinion. That's the reason why the Western African countries in the Sahel have also decided to also start looking at their own interests. This is causing a number of commotion in their geopolitical partners, like from the United States of America, Europe, and also other partners that have engaged the region. There have been accusations of increased corruption in Africa, bribery, and also unfair business practices to secure business transactions. However, we've seen multinational companies of Western countries that have been involved in a number of corruption cases in the continent of Africa. Look at Glencore, which has been one of those corporations that have involved in extensive corruption in the continent of Africa. What happened in that particular case? If you look at Togo, Togo had issues with a number of major companies in France that have had issues in the region. If you look at other analytical information, however, unlike Western governments, China has not made significant efforts to export its governance model to the continent of Africa. The second thing is that has heavily invested in Africa, that's China, and has not pursued building up of network of states obliged to supply natural resources and locations for military bases. However, that's beginning to change to some extent. Chinese investment have increasingly ways profoundly impacted the continent through mutually beneficial cooperation without interference in domestic political and also internal affairs. If you look at geopolitics in play, investment in the continent of Africa will likely increase since Africa is an essential frontier in development. Once the global situation settles, looking at the current inflation and other issues that have affected the global economy, and the war in Ukraine as well, and that of Israel, including what's happening also in the United States of America, Chinese investment in Africa will continue to grow based on analysis information. However, can Africa benefit from the great power competition between China, the European Union, Russia, and also the United States of America, including India and some Middle Eastern partners that are engaging the continent like never before seen? Will China's presence in Africa be a new form of colonialism? Can China and Africa develop win-win cooperation? This particular video addresses one of that particular episode that I want to dive into, to looking on how Africa engages China. First, to close this video, I want to look at China's historical relations with Africa. Over the last few decades, no country has gone through more changes than China. From a marginal actor and the least developed country to the largest economy in the world in purchasing parity, that's PPP terms, China's path to relevance and great power status is an irreversible reality that we all are talking about today. If you look at strategic option, through this period, Chinese presence in Africa has grown from minor relevance to the continent's largest trading partner, with expectations of more, mainly due to the Belt and Road Initiative known as the BRI. Thousands of Chinese companies have settled and are more operational in the continent of Africa, with entrepreneurship growing in China and also in the continent of Africa. If you look at strategic options with regards to how Africa is diversifying itself, engaging with China from a different narrative, the growing Chinese presence in Africa is not unnoticed. Africa has also become a territory where the clash between the great powers, particularly the United States and China, is observed. There is much negative campaigning against China without considering the possibilities that China's African partnership has already generated. Such allegations repeated unusual criticism against Chinese neocolonialism, debt trapping, corruption, employment of Chinese workers, and degradation of local human rights situations into regards to different perspectives on how China engages Africa. To address such issues, China has embraced several programs to contact anti-China sentiments and also stimulates Chinese firms into positive actions in regards to the continent of Africa. Beijing has been actively modifying its approach to retaining its African foothold, particularly considering that African countries have been eager to explore new development models based on local know-how, innovations, and human capital. China has also been learning about the internal politics of African countries and has been limiting its exposure level to possibilities of default or instabilities, and also derived from unstable democratic situations, and also deriving its engagement with the continent of Africa, considering that it should be a partnership of equals. This ends the first part of our video. We have more particular analysis coming from with regards to short form content. Let us know what you think with regards to China's engagement in the continent of Africa, if China has invested in any infrastructure in your country, and leave us a comment. Keep the conversation going, and we are looking forward to meeting you again with our next short form content, where we're going to be bringing you more analytical information. Smash the subscribe button and share the video. I would definitely appreciate it. For now, we are looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Have a good day. Bye-bye.